Good morning, folks. It's been a while since I did a video. I was inspired to do one today because of my nephew Chance. He found himself in the middle of a YouTube video that has a bunch of viewers, and he wants to do his own video channel. So I said, that's good. I'd like to see that, And who knows what the topic will be of the subject, but whatever he picks is going to be exciting. I know that, and very well orchestrated. He's very intellectual, along with being very athletic. So it'll do good. Congratulations, Chance, before you even get it going, because I know you're going to follow through with it. But anyway, today's video, I'm not going to have a title for it, but I will say this. It's about a last-minute cry. The last-minute cry. Why wait till the last minute? Why put off what you really need to do very soon and immediately if you can this morning, right now. This morning is an absolutely beautiful morning, and usually I just haven't had the time to do a video, so I'm taking the time now because I just felt it was necessary, and I wanted to share with y'all a little bit. And the building that we're sitting in now is a 21 foot screened in porch, 21 by 8, and it sits on top of a shipping container. And I just finished building it. The pole that you see behind me here is a telephone pole. I have 4 of these that run up the side of the shipping container, and I've been standing them up, digging the holes with post hole diggers. All right. Anybody that operated up here, and I'm a licensed operator. I don't want to hear about no problems. Anyway, I'm a licensed operator. So I dug them holes. Every hole's 5.5 feet deep, and all the poles but one have 4 or 5 bags of concrete in them. And so the poles were like 38 foot long, 40 foot long, and I cut them off right around 25 to 26. And a couple of them, when I stood them up, just barely missed the eve of the building. I mean, just barely. And I thought I gave it extra room to have a foot or two, but I'm talking, inches. I mean, it just barely missed it. This is my dog, Waco. He likes to bother me when I'm on YouTube. Or he's a camera hound, I don't know. Waco, go lay down. Go lay down. So, anyway, that's a few things I wanted to share about this morning. You'll hear the birds out there. You'll probably hear the chickens and roosters crowing. You'll hear the ewes making their noise. I got 2 lambs that are ready to give birth any time now. They're due in May, and it's May 6th or 7th or 8th or something now. I don't know. Kind of lost track of time out here. But anyway, to get back on topic, the last minute cry for help. I'm just wondering why you would wait to the last minute to call for help and to ask for help. I stop and I think back on history, and I've seen documentaries on TV and on YouTube, and I think back on history, and I look at some of them documentaries or listen to some of the stories, and a lot of times some of them have the actual people that lived that history, that went through that history. And I always thought to myself, what would it be like to go through the Great Depression? What would it be like? I told somebody I was going to do a video like this, and I was going to have some old black and white pictures behind me, and I didn't find the time to take them off the wall and bring them up here and do that. But you've all seen the pictures during the Great Depression, of the farmers sitting out there, or city folks in their bread lines, and you know, And then I thought to myself, well, I wonder what it was like during the Dust Bowl. The Dust Bowl, when there was all that drought, and they didn't know that to plant ground cover to cover the ground when you weren't growing, and it was dry and wind, and that dust started gathering, and people suffocated. People had got emphysema, and and I'm not a doctor, so I'm just guessing that's what it was, emphysema, or if you call it COPD or what, But anyway, a lot of the log cabins didn't have their places sealed up like nowadays, and the dust was able to get inside, and you breathed that all night long. And it must have been horrendous. It must have been horrendous during the Great Depression, not knowing where your next meal was going to come from, and limiting yourself. One of the best movies I ever seen on that. It's a Hollywood movie, of course, but and it wasn't even directly about the Great Depression. It was about a prize fighter, Crow. I think his last name is Crow. The actor Crow played the part. He also played in Gladiators, I think. But the movie was called Cinderella Man. Yeah, you get a chance, watch it. I think it was very, very well put together, and it just showed a lot of the struggle. They actually had to give away their kids. And listen, we can think about that, and it can glance right off of us, and you can hear it and say, "Oh, that was terrible," and then just 20 seconds later, literally, you've gone on to something else, and you don't dwell on that. You don't think about it. So I guess today's video is just to make you think about what you have and the things that could happen. Don't let your bias get in the way of the things that could happen. Did they know the Great Depression was coming? Nope. Everybody was caught by surprise. I heard bankers jumped out of windows. They lost their entire fortune. Investment brokers and stuff jumped out of windows and killed themselves. That's a lack of hope right there. That's a lack of hope. They had no hope. They thought that, I guess, their money was their God, and their God was gone. See, our God is never going to be gone. We're always going to have hope. So you got the Great Depression, you got the Dust Bowl. I wonder what each one of these things was like, day-to-day life, waking up in the morning. Man, you didn't sleep good last night because you was hungry. And the kids, they're hungry. You didn't sleep good because you couldn't even get your garden in. Everything's so dried up and so dusty outside, you can't even get your garden in to feed yourself. I mean, oh my goodness, man. Just the little details, if you thought about it. They probably always had dust and sand in their eyes, and probably had to wear a mask like everybody's doing now. And it was a real necessity, to go, when you went out in there to wear that mask and keep that dust out of your lungs. And you might have even had to wear one when you were sleeping. Oh my goodness, man, that's terrible. That's terrible. And so you just don't know what the actual experiences were like. But you can go back on some of the documentaries and watch them, and you can learn what it's like. And I would encourage people to go back and see that, because a lot of people think that it's impossible. Stuff like that will never happen again. Or it happened so long ago. We're safe from everything. And let me tell you something. If I could afford it, now this might get a couple people pissed off, but I just don't really care. But if I could afford it, I'd have a bunch of t-shirts made up. And I'd probably have to have about at least 100 or 200 of them made up. Maybe more. People that just didn't say what they really felt when I talked to them. And the t-shirt would say, "I told you so." Now, "I told you so" meant that at one time I said everybody should prepare, put something away, and then go about your life. And I'm not talking about fear, because if you're prepared, why should you fear? If you're ready, why should you? What do you got to worry about? I'm not talking about worrying. I'm not talking about fear. But you don't want to be the ostrich with your head in the sand. And there's a lot of them out there. I had no idea that there's that many ostriches in the world. By the way, this is my Infowars.com. You've probably seen it backwards. I don't usually do commercials, but banned information. Banned information, banned channel. Everything they said that was a conspiracy 20 years ago has come to fruition. So I encourage you to go to Infowars.com. He's a little eccentric, kind of a lot like me. I don't know if that's the right word or not. It just felt like it needed to go in there. I could look it up in the dictionary. Infowars.com. Or band.video. Band.video. There's a lot of good videos on band.video. So, anyway, so those are some things that you can wonder about. You know, I wonder what it was like back then, and what it was like back then. And a lot of people might just flick this video on because they know me, and they might say, "Oh, here we go again." Oh, gee whiz. Well, listen, if you're doing that, you're a closed-minded individual. I remember one day telling somebody, and we were talking, I was talking about work ethics. I was talking about lifespan and the time you got to accomplish stuff in your lifespan. And I said, you only got so much time. Oh my gosh, you would not believe it. A complete freak out. I'm not going to live my life in fear. Okay. What are you talking about? I'm talking about you only have so much time on this earth to get stuff done. Had nothing to do with fear. It's just trying to make a schedule, get things accomplished, and go after it. You know, I wasn't talking about survival. I wasn't talking about preparing or nothing like that. So, but that person had already formed in their mind what I was going to say, and they were wrong. They were wrong. I wasn't talking about nothing of the sort. I didn't say anything else. I walked away. And who knows, they may even see this video and remember that day. Then they may not. I don't know. But I know I love each and every one of them. I know I care about each and every one of them. And when I do a video about survival or preparedness or getting ready, there's a reason for it. I want to see them and their family protected. You can listen. If being prepared was a sin, then every Boy Scout when I was growing up is a sinner. And their main sin was learning how to be prepared, because that was the Boy Scout motto. Be prepared, be prepared. That's right. And you know, just so you know, I only made it to the Cub Scouts. So I didn't make it to the Boy Scouts, but I think our motto was be prepared also. So, and the Bible tells you to be prepared. So anyway, so here I go again. Oh my goodness, with these videos about preparedness and getting ready, but I wanted you, if you could just knock all that aside just for a second, and just think about what these poor folks might have went through back then. You know, during the Great Depression and during these hard times. You know. The ones out in the country, I heard some of them didn't even know it happened. Because they had farms and they just lived their life as they normally would, growing their own food. And 90% of the people back then grew their own foods. The people that suffered the most were the people in the cities and stuff. So I want you to think back, and you know, a lot of them had good relationships with God, and they were able to communicate with Him, and you know, it was like calling your best friend up on the phone once a day, or once every other day, or once a week, and just checking in on them, see how they're doing. These people had relationships like that with God. They would pretty much every day spend time with Him. So they were familiar with Him, and He was familiar with them. That's even more important. He was familiar with them. Yep, that's right. He had what they called a party line back then. That means when you got on the phone, you might have 20 people on there from your neighborhood listening. But the idea was that God is omnipresent. He's everywhere, and he attends to every single individual need of every single individual person, and He cares about you. So you wonder what it was like back during the Great Depression. You wonder what it was like during the Dust Bowl. And then I always wonder, there's something else I think about occasionally. I wonder what it's like to have war and I want to make sure I say this. I want to get them in the right order. It could be on American soil or in your neighborhood. Which one's going to get the point across more? I'm going to go with your neighborhood. I wonder what it's like to have war in your neighborhood. You know, and I'm talking about like a world war. And, you know, we had the Civil War, and it was in neighborhoods, and it was brothers and fathers, and some of them fighting against each other, uncles and cousins, and it had to be horrendous. It was knocking on your door, in your yard, on your acreage. What do? You know? Especially if it comes to freedom and liberty. You know, the Revolutionary War. Hey, you could try to stay out of it if you wanted to. But I don't, you know, nowadays that's almost impossible. I wonder what it was like to wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night and hear 1,000 yells and screams. People running through the woods, shots going off, cannons being fired, or first thing in the morning as the fog goes across the prairie there, or across the cow pasture, and you see men from both sides charging each other, muskets in their hands, cannons going off, and the fog's lifting. You can make out the figures, and they're just figures at this point. I wonder what it was like. I wonder what they thought, what their thoughts were about protecting their families. On each one of them scenarios, the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, war in your neighborhood. What did they think about? What did they think about? Man, I wish I'd have had the foresight to prepare. You know, there were some people that, you know what they were saying? Some people were saying, man, I'm glad I prepared. Now I can help my neighbor. That's right. That's right. I'm not just preparing for myself, I'm preparing for my neighbors. Man, my goodness, man. Every time I think about that, it makes my heart jump, you know, because you're doing something good for somebody. You're you know, and listen, you know, the best way you can prepare for your neighbor is to inform your neighbor and have him prepare. Because now you got 2 neighbors preparing for their neighbors. Then you got 3 neighbors preparing. And next thing you know, it's growing, and you got a sense of this community. And everybody's ready, everybody's prepared, and everybody's still living their normal life and going about it. And it's not about the worry. It's not about being scared. It's not about being fearful. It's not about fretting and biting your nails and saying, oh, woe is me. What am I going to do? Why would I have to do that if I'm prepared? Waco, go lay down. See how he does? See how he is? So, we got the Great Depression, we got the Dust Bowl, and then we got war in your neighborhood, war on your property, war knocking at your door, threatening your family, starvation threatening your family, lack of food threatening your family. So I wonder what it was like. You know, I wonder what it was like. Now listen, one thing we haven't experienced, well, we have and we haven't. During the Revolutionary War, we could call them foreign invaders when England came over here, even though everybody that was over here was from England for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's been so long. And some of that stuff they probably don't even teach in school anymore. So, you know, I wonder what it's like to have a foreign entity on your soil. I wonder what it would be like for a soldier to be overseas and all of a sudden a war starts in their homeland. So they're overseas fighting, and all of a sudden back home in the old USA a war breaks out, an invasion. You know, what are they thinking now? Hey, I need to get home. I need to get home and protect my family. You know, all of those things that I've said. The Dust Bowl, the Great Depression, war in your own neighborhood, foreign invasion, foreigners, yeah, and we right now we do have invaders already in here. And you may not know them as invaders. You may know them as so-and-so the butcher, or so-and-so the car dealer, or so-and-so the carpenter. Their philosophy is socialism and communism. They may have come from within, or they may have come from overseas. They may have infiltrated the colleges and indoctrinated our children for a couple generations now. They're here and they're everywhere. But the reason I'm bringing all this up is because chances are you're going to experience one of these real soon. What are they? A depression. I hear them talking about a depression. Dust Bowl. I hear Adopt 2030, Oppenheimer Ranch, Ice Age Farmer, Deep South Homestead, talking about food production and how it's starting to fail us. By the way, it's not cow farts. It's not you, and it's not me. It's the sun. The sun controls the climate. It always has, it always will. And it comes in cycles. 500-year cycles, 100-year cycles, 5,000-year cycles. Go back through history. Scientific evidence proves it. It's not hearsay. It's not make-believe like global warming. It's the real thing. The sun. Who would have thought? So, anyway, the chances are, the other things is the drum beating right now with China. Let me tell you something. China plans out 100-year wars. I've always said 1,000-year wars, but they probably do. They probably plan out 200-year wars. And according to that guy, that demon, so to speak, that wrote The Art of War, you get a chance, read that. It's mandatory reading. I heard in some of the military colleges. Excuse me while I drink some more of this wonderful coffee. Oh man, that's good. You make a pot of that and you smell it through the whole house. My goodness, man. So, knowing in my heart of hearts that something like that's coming soon. Maybe all of them, who knows? But China prepares for these wars. China feels threatened. That beer virus that's going around was intentional. You got to convince me otherwise. But all the evidence that I've seen, I'm talking about doctors, intelligence people, it was man-made. It may have started out being a natural thing from a bat in a bat cave or whatever, with Robin there next to him and whoever over in Gotham City. I don't know, but I think it started over in Wuhan City, not Gotham City, and I think that beer virus was intentional. I think that the fact, and by the way, it is deadly, but it ain't near as deadly as they're saying. And if I died tomorrow from it, doesn't make that a lie. It doesn't make it is not going to make me regret saying what I just said today. It is deadly, but it's being made out to be a lot more than it is. They're using it. Never let what was the old fish head Emmanuel used? Dead fish Emmanuel from Chicago, the mayor over there. I forgot what his last name was. Or his first name, I mean. Or his last name. His first name. Never let a crisis go to waste. Now, you know, that really, if something's going to make you mad, thinking about that, taking advantage of a people during a crisis in order to gain leverage over them. That's an evil son of a gun right there. Yeah. One of the guys pops to my mind is Bill Gates. If I say that, they might take it off of YouTube. Let's call him the North Gate. Old North Gate, the old North Gate. I got a North Gate, South Gate, East Gate, West Gate, and North Gate. Anyway, a couple things I want to encourage people to do today is understand that those things happen in life. You know, it just happens. It happens to any country, every country. Right now, listen, I got a book that it's a live account that somebody wrote during an economic collapse in their country that they were in. And the lady that wrote it, it's all handwritten manuscripts, by the way. I got it. Maybe I'll come out here and read it over YouTube one day. It's handwritten manuscripts. It was given to my grandma, and then something happened to the people. They disappeared, and so she was never able to get it back to them. And I think she was going to maybe do some organized editing of it, and then maybe have somebody maybe do some artwork for it. But, you know, it really happened to this individual. So I got to see how they plant. They didn't even plant their garden in a normal way. It wasn't in rows. It was planted sporadically throughout their woods on their property because they were worried about theft. If it was a lined up row, everybody'd go by and say, oh, that looks like a garden. Okay, make a note of that. Harvest time is in 2 weeks. Let's make a note of that. We'll come out in the middle of the night. They're depending on that food. Heck with them. I'm depending on it too, even though it's not my garden. You know, that's terrible. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Grow your own garden. Be prepared. Don't be that person. You evil. You know, you're desperate to, but it doesn't make you any less evil. You know, if you didn't prepare, then yeah. Listen, let's call it what it is. You know, you had the foreknowledge, but you wanted to spend your money and your time on other things, and you didn't prepare. So are you gonna at that last minute, are you gonna be the one that cries out, oh Lord, oh God, help me, my stomach, oh I can't sleep, I can't sleep because my stomach, and I haven't eaten, or oh Lord, I drank that water and I didn't have a water filter and something had parasites or something in it, and it scares me because I gave it to my kids. I gave that same water to my children. Lord, if I'm hungry, I know my children are hungry, Lord. Oh, I'm going to have to go over there to the neighbor's and sneak over in his garden and steal his food to feed my kids. Heck with his kids. I'm going to feed mine, is what you're saying. Heck of him and his family starve. I'm going to feed mine. That's what you're saying. I'm going to go out there and get mine by ill-gotten gains. I'm going to go over there and enjoy the fruits of his labor. I'm going to take advantage of his foresight to protect his family and watch over his family. And I'm going to go over there and I'm going to get his garden. Or you might be one of those that say, hey, I know that guy's going to retaliate. So I'm going to go over there. I'm not just going to get his garden. I'm going to make sure he's not around to retaliate anymore. See how evil it can be? Listen, go to God right now. Cry out to him now while you still can. There may come a day when it's so confusing, it's going to be hard to understand and hear his voice. So start understanding and hearing his voice now. Start listening for what he has to say now. The little things in your life that you know are wrong that you're doing, the time you're wasting, whatever it is, start acting on it now. It's nagging you. It's always been there, especially if you're a Christian. You can't get away with it. You can do it over and over and over and over again, but only for so long. Then you either harden your hearts, and then you ain't no good for anybody, or you'll become so miserable that you'll finally submit to God and say, Lord, okay, what do you want? You know, you left me to my own. Leaving me to my own is what this guy. And, you know, that reminds me of before I got saved, you know, what it was like, you know. A life full of heavy drug use. I mean, I'm talking everything from huffing gas to, I mean, just horrendous stuff to this temple that God gave me. I still can't believe I did it. I would just thank God that he protected my lungs and the rest of me with all the stuff I did. Anybody ever wants to know or hear my testimony, it's on the Family Tree Farm channel. I got a chance to give it in church. And I didn't share it all, but I did share some of the terrible details because I wanted people to see a comparison. So, okay, I'm going to bring this to a close real quick. And I want everybody to think, are you close to God now? Are you close as you need to be? Do you want to get closer? If you do, pray this prayer. Lord Jesus, I know that I've done things my way. And in my mind, in my heart, I see the results haven't been good. The evidence shows, Lord, that doing things my way has got me in a lot of trouble and made me go through things that I didn't necessarily need to go through. Lord, forgive me. I know you gave me free will. Lord, use them things that I did wrong now to change me. Lord, I know it can be instantaneous. Instantaneous, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for showing me that, Lord. It can be instant. I can